today I am going to therapy. I've been going back to therapy for about 5 weeks now, something like that, about a month, and it's been great. I've talked about things I have never really talked about before. I've opened up about things. I've found a counsellor that really understands me and that just is a really great counsellor for me. I've been to so many counsellors over the years and it's not really worked out with any of them. In fact, I've had some quite bad experiences with counsellors before, and I'm really grateful and so glad that I've found a counsellor that is great for me. I'm also studying counselling at the moment, and I don't know if you know, but if you are in university studying counselling, or if you are a counsellor, you have to have counselling at the same time. So you have to get something called supervision, which means that you go to counselling and they can kind of see your blind spots that you don't see, because everybody has flaws and everybody has blind spots that they can't see about themselves, and so it's really important that counsellors go to counselling, and so it's just a really good time in my life to go to counselling right now. I'm still in a place where I need to work on my anxiety. I'm still not in the place I'd like to be, and things are still quite difficult, and so I think going to counselling is just great at the moment. Having gone back to counselling, there are some things that I have experienced that I didn't realise I'd experience. There's been some things that people have said, or just people that have misunderstood counselling, basically. And there's things I've learnt through actually training to be a counsellor that I maybe didn't think of before. There's been a whole host of things recently that I have discovered about counselling, and things that I didn't know before, and things that other people didn't know before that they've talked to me about, and that kind of thing. So today I'm going to talk about 5 myths of therapy. The first one is that we are in a bad place. Some people do think that if you're going back to counselling, or if you're starting to go to see a counsellor or a therapist, you are in a bad place, or you've had a relapse, or something bad has happened to you in your life. Usually people do go to counselling for a reason. Usually something has gone wrong, or something has been brought up, or they're just not generally feeling that great, and they will go to counselling for that reason. But there's also people that go to counselling just for their mental well-being. Like you go to a gym to make your body fitter and better, you might go and see a counsellor to make your mind fitter and better. It's kind of the same thing in my eyes. Most of the time people go back to see a counsellor because they're having a hard time, or because they just feel like going back to counselling. For me, I wasn't going through a bad time. I'm actually, at this point in my life, I'm much better than I have ever been, probably. I work, I go to college, like things are much better for me, but it's a good time in my life to go back to counselling, and it's been very beneficial, and although it has been quite tough and it's brought up a lot of things that I didn't realise I was upset about, it's brought up a lot of things from my past that has been quite difficult. It's all been things that I've been ready for, and it's been very good, and I'm not in a bad place. And so if somebody's telling you they're going back to counselling, don't worry about them having relapsed or anything like that. It just means that they're trying to do something good for themselves. The second thing is that you should feel worried or awkward around that person and the topic of counselling. Never do that. If somebody has said to you, oh, I'm going back to counselling, or I'm seeing a therapist at the moment, that is a great thing, and you should try your best to be as curious about it and talk to them about it as much as you can. It might be that they're in a bad place and they need somebody to talk to, or it might just be like, if you say to them, how's counselling? I've got loads of friends that are like, how's counselling today? My boyfriend says that, my parents say that, and it's just a very talked about thing in my life, and I like talking about it. I wouldn't bring it up, I wouldn't tell people if I didn't like talking about it. The more you talk about it, the less of a stigma it has attached to it as well. So the more you ask your friend, like, oh, how's counselling? Or how are you doing at your counsellors? Or that kind of thing. The more it's talked about, and the more it's an open and normal thing to talk about. I have friends that are going to physios at the moment, because I've got a friend with a bad wrist, and I've got a friend with, I think she's got a bad shoulder, and I'll ask them quite openly and without any embarrassment how it's going. Likewise, I would feel glad if somebody asked me how's counselling going. It's not an embarrassing thing, and the more you talk about it, the better. Number 3 is that somebody that's going to counselling has a mental health problem. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of people that go to counselling have mental health problems, but I kind of had this preconceived idea before I started training to be a counsellor. People go because they have mental health problems. I think because my whole life I've been going to counsellors because I've got mental health problems. But obviously that's totally not true, and there's like a million reasons why somebody might go and see a counsellor. Somebody might be in the best time of their life and they don't feel don't have any negative feelings at that time, but they just feel like talking to somebody. Somebody might be going through a relationship breakup or a divorce and they might want to talk about it. Somebody might be going through a death in their family. There's so many things, so many reasons why somebody might go to counselling, and mental health is just one of them. Next, we have something that's really important, and I think many people think that if they go to counselling they'll have to talk about their past, they'll have to talk about things they're not ready for, they'll have to go deep into something that was really difficult for them. And while most people, when they go to counselling, they will talk about their past, it is always down to the client, it's always down to the person that's receiving the counselling that talks about it. No counsellor will ever make you talk about something you're not ready for. Just say, I'm not ready to talk about that. I have been to therapists that I've had a bad experience with, and it might take you a while to find the right therapist for you, and it's totally fine to kind of shop around and see who works for you and what's going on, but most of the time, 99% of the time, you will get a counsellor that will not bring up things from your past unless you have talked about it. If you kind of briefly talk about, oh yeah, I was bullied then, or I was going through a marriage breakup, or I was blah blah blah, the counsellor might say to you, do you feel like you're ready to talk about that? Would you like to talk about that? And only then will they go into your past. You never ever have to talk about something you're not ready for. Although sometimes it's healthy and it's good to talk about the past because it kind of maybe will give you an idea of why your life is presently at the point it's at. For example, the other day with my counsellor, we talked about something that was really, really difficult for me that I've never talked about really. There was a time in my life when I was bullied at the same time that a family member died, and I was very, very little, and it had a really devastating effect on my life, and it really, I think, was the cause of my anxiety and my mental health problems, and I had never talked about that before, and it's really opened something up in me, and it's been quite hard to deal with, and I've been feeling very strange the past week, but I 100% I volunteered that information, and she just held it, and she just led me along, and she didn't make me feel like I needed to talk about it. And the reason I spoke about it, the reason I felt able to say it, was because she made me feel so comfortable and so welcomed and so understood that I felt like I could speak about it, and she held it in a really great way and was really emotional about what I was telling her, and it was really great to be held in that way. But if it takes you 10 years to talk about something awful that happened to you as a child or in your life, it takes you 10 years, and nobody's ever going to force that information out of you. Number 5, and the most important thing I want you to take away from this video, is there's a myth that people think they are either too sick or not sick enough to go to therapy. Some people might think like, I've never really had like a trauma in my life, it's not fair for me to go to therapy and pretend I've got problems, or to talk about my problems that are so mundane and that don't mean anything. And there's some people that think I am way too much, I am way past help, I have had too many things going on in my life and I am too sick to go to counselling because it's just not going to work. Both of those are just equally as difficult to deal with, and they're both very, very normal and very real thoughts to have before you go to counselling. But they're both so unhelpful, and they're ideas that just are so not true. You could go to counselling because you feel like it. You might not have any reason, you might feel like you haven't had many bad things happen to you in your life and you're fine with where you are, you just want to talk to somebody and make sure that your mental health is okay, and to make sure you don't go into a dark place. You might be somebody that has been extremely unwell for your whole life with mental health problems and have had terrible traumas in your life, and a counsellor can help you with that. Both ways, counselling is never ever a bad thing, and I have realised that over the past few weeks. I've gone through both of those thoughts thinking I'm way past help, I'm too ill, and I've thought I've not really had many bad things happen to me, am I selfish for going to counselling? All the thoughts, I've had them, and if you actually speak to your counsellor about it and say, I actually feel kind of bad for being here because I don't have many things that have happened to me in my life, or if you say, I don't even know if you will be able to help me because I feel so unwell, they're both great things to start with, and they're both just work from there. Why don't you just start the conversation by saying that? Even in the text you're sending to your counsellor, say, I'd love to come to you for counselling, but I feel like this. There's never a wrong answer in counselling, which is the best thing about it, is you can never say something wrong, and whatever you feel is totally valid, and I just think counselling is great for absolutely everybody. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helped some of you, and I will see you soon. Bye!